Jason is in his 20s. He has a wife and a child, and he was in an organised crime group, or we'd call it an organised crime group. You'd probably call it a gang. When he came to us, not only was he under threat from the group, but we were investigating him for his own criminality.
Is this quite a common case then?
Yeah.
I was running with organised crime, a group of people, and when I chose that I didn't want to be doing that anymore, obviously there was repercussions. It was one of my friends who basically set me up, and he picked me up, drove me down the road. We pulled outside a shop and the car was surrounded by a group of people. One of them pulled a knife out, put a seatbelt around my head and basically pinned me into the seat, kind of saying, look, we're taking you and we're going to chop you up. And this is all just because I said no. And I knew that the threats they were saying, I've seen them acted out without even blinking, so I knew what was coming. It was about 2 miles down the road when the two people in the back started arguing, and that basically gave me the opportunity to kind of jump out of the vehicle while it was still moving, and I basically ran as fast as I could. I didn't think the police would help me because I was a criminal, basically. They spoke to me on a level. There was swearing involved, and he kind of said, look, cut the crap. He said, this is how it is, and I'm telling you, you either do as you're told, or that little kid will no longer be living with you. They are going to kill you.
This is the first time that the United Kingdom Protected Persons Service has actually allowed journalists this level of access into this world, which we keep covert for very good reason. But this was the right time for us just to say, this is what we do. If you need that level of protection, if you're worried about how we do this, this just gives a bit more insight into what we do on a daily basis.
Carla is in her late 20s. She has children, although at the time of the incident she didn't have custody of them, even though she saw them regularly. The details of the rape are so specific that if we were to give further details, we would risk identifying her and the people involved.
It started off as just a rape case. Then in New Year, my flat got broken into and trashed. Then I got put into a different property, and some of these people turned up at the flat. And I got moved again and again and again. Because of the situation I was in, it wasn't safe for me to see my kids. I begged and pleaded, please don't make me go to court. Don't make me go to court. I did not want to go to court. Because I'd been warned when they got into the house, if I went to court, they wouldn't stop until they found me. Literally, it all started here. It's quite weird being back here. I had a phone call the night before and said, we're picking you up and we're taking you to a hotel and you've got to meet these people, is what the CID told me. I was sat in this room and I was told, this is what's going to happen. If you want to see your kids, if you want to stay safe, you've got to come with us.
The law has changed since she came into the scheme. When she came onto the scheme, part of the legislation was that there were only certain categories of people that you could qualify for witness protection, one of which was actually being a witness.
So, hang on, what she's actually saying there is, I didn't want to give evidence, but I need to give evidence so I can be protected and see my kids.
But she had a Hobson's choice. I mean, nobody was going to force her into the witness box, but I think she realised that the choices she had were very limited.
There's no getting away from the fact this is a life-changing decision when people come onto a scheme. It's a massive change. If you placed yourself in their position, about you were going to be taken away from what you've known previously and placed somewhere else where you don't know anybody at all, it affects people.
I wasn't bothered where I was going. I was happy to be in the car and driving away from the town that we lived in. It did not matter to me one bit where we were going as long as it was away from where I lived, basically. We got dropped in a place where we never even visited, we didn't know anybody, not one single person. It was for me it was quite nice because I'd never been able to relax. I'd never been able to walk through a door, you know, through the front door of a house and not lock it behind me thinking about who's going to come through that door. I get up 4, 5, 6 times a night worrying about who's going to take my door off, who's going to try and stab me next. And for me, it was relaxing because nobody knew where I was.
So how do you keep someone safe?
Our best tool, if you like, is miles on the map. So if you lived in Dover, we could look at somewhere miles and miles away. And it's that breaking the ties that they have to...
And hang on, it's that breaking those ties. That sounds like by far the most difficult thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's been likened to a bereavement.
The fewer people who know where you are, the less the risk of exposure. And the fewer people know where you are, the less risk to those individuals, so parents, family, etc. We've got to consider the wider issues around their safety too.
I couldn't give anyone my phone number. I had to be careful. I couldn't phone my mum and say, "Oh mum, they've moved me." I wasn't allowed to do that. From being around the corner from your kids to being hundreds of miles away from them, it's not nice. How to explain that to your kids? All I did was cry for years. One of them could phone me up and say, "Mum, I really need you right now." And that's heart-wrenching because I can't go to them. Ever. That's just the way life is now.
We have to be very careful about who knows where they are. And from the start, until we have an element of control, until we have an element of knowing they're safe and secure, we would discourage them telling people where they are at any stage. But we can facilitate ways to maintain contact over periods of time.
In terms of making contact, when they will see their family or perhaps very close friends, is that in a safe place away from where they actually live?
I can't answer that question.
I was a nervous wreck. I was scratching my arms all the time. I had red welts. I wouldn't go out. I wouldn't do nothing. Trusted no one. If someone wanted to come in the day to fix something like a gas man, now it's just a gas man, but I was paranoid that he was gonna do something to me. Really paranoid. At first I just wouldn't meet new people because I was too worried that I would trip myself up, or like someone would come in and see a picture of the kids in their school uniform and I'd be saying, they're gonna ask me what school my kids go to. And then I was gonna have to think of something else and something else, so I just wouldn't have friends.
Changing someone's identity involves many, many steps that need to be taken for their security and for them to lead a normal lifestyle. I can't go into any detail around that at all because it may lead to the exposure of tactics that we use. But it's a complicated process, it's a difficult process, and we don't do it lightly. We only do it when people are at significant risk of harm. And that is why it's at the highest end of protecting people in the UK.
So you can't make any comments about changing passports or names or bank accounts or anything like that?
No.
The implications of your actions are massive and nobody asks, look, your actions, my missus didn't ask me to do what I did. She didn't spend the money that I made selling drugs. You know, all she wanted was a normal life. And the scheme's been able to give us that opportunity to be able to start again, where people don't know my past, and bring the kids up, you know, take them to school, a normal school where they're not associated with drug dealers or criminals. It's a normal life. Don't get me wrong, I'm still paranoid, you know, now, because there is an element that one day they will find me and one day they probably will kill me or try to kill me. But I am happy to be out of the way. I am happy to have a different name, you know. I'm happy to have a fresh start.
Nobody who's actually been on the scheme has ever been seriously injured or killed as part of our protection. Individuals occasionally will step outside what is safe for them to do and go back to areas where they were from previously, etc., and compromise themselves. As a result of that, we have two decisions. One decision is to remove them from the scheme. The second is to relocate them elsewhere, educate them further in relation to what the situation is, and that all depends on the level of threat that they are under.
My sentence, my punishment that I've had to live with for the last few years is worse than what he's had to do. I mean, in jail, you get to see your family, don't you? You get to have, like, family visits every week. I didn't see my parents for ages. I only got to see my kids for a few hours. That's disgusting.
What we can't do is be seen to give people incentives to give evidence. So that's why UK PPS is separate from an investigation, because we can't be seen by the courts to be offering an incentive for evidence, etc., etc.
So you can't say we'll give you a villa in Spain and as long as you testify?
No. What we do look to do as far as possible is replicate previous lifestyle. Bear in mind, some people come onto the scheme with next to nothing. On the rare occasions when people come onto the scheme who have a 6-bed detached house, we consider each case carefully on its merits.
It's not glamorous. You don't get put in a nice big house somewhere and get loads of money put in your bank. I mean, because that's what a lot of people think happens when you go into something like this. But you just don't. Your life's no better and no worse.
And on quite a number of occasions, the life that these individuals actually end up living is far more normal than they had previously and far less chaotic than they had previously. A lot of clients who come onto this actually have a better standard of living at the end of the day, not because we've given them more money, not because we've found them better jobs than they had previously. There's no incentives in any of this, but because they've got the opportunity, quite a lot of people, to start again.